Hello and welcome to another Doctor's Assistant 1 video. Today I'm doing another Doctor Who Big Finish review. Apologies for the lighting. If the lighting's not great, it's predominantly because I use normally natural lighting, i.e. the sun, but considering that I'm recording this in the latter end of November and that it's obviously winter time, and that means, you know, it not being sunny out at all ever over here in the UK, so that means that basically the lighting is really terrible. So I've had to turn my light on, so if it's a bit more orangey than usual as well, that's kind of why. Bit of a disclaimer as well. I was planning on I was torn between either reviewing Doctor Who Death of the Daleks, Jumper to Story, or this one, Robophobia, this story. However, I sort of put that on my Doctor's Assistant 1 Facebook group page as to which one people would prefer me to review. However, the person who commented, sorry, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he said that he preferred Robophobia over Death of the Daleks, so I don't know if that meant he would want me to review Robophobia, but here we are anyway. So yeah, what was I going to say? I have already also listened to this story once before, quite some time ago back, quite a few years back now, with my friend Michael, and that, as he had this story originally. But yeah, I recently picked this one up earlier this month, or quite a bit earlier now, this month, and that, but yeah. Robophobia, full cast audio there, and then you've got the 7th Doctor sort of in the time vortex there, and the original sort of typography for the sort of logo, as well as like the banner and Sylvester McCoy Robophobia by Nicholas Briggs, the voice of the Daleks in the new series. Big Finish audio there, CV10, Livchenko and the Doctor, and then this sort of well-designed sort of background which reminds me of the Sand Miner from Robots of Death, then the robot hand, severed hand in blood, and then on the spine it just says Doctor Who Robophobia 149, which means that it's the 149th release in the monthly range. On the back you've got the bio about the story, you've got the cast list as well as the running time, 120 minutes, so 2 hours. As you can see there though, there is a bit of a dent and a bit of a scratch there, which is kind of annoying on my release because, you know, the mailman. And then you just got the reversible cover and the disc, and that's about it for packaging really. I mean, I like the cover, is what I was gonna say, but yeah, it's a successor and or sequel to Robots of Death, which is easily one of my favourite Doctor Who classic series Doctor Who stories. It's easily in my top 10 classic Who Doctor Who stories, and yeah, I mean, I adore the Vox robots. They're just so creepily designed, and oh my god, props to whoever designed them, like the original costume designer person who designed that, because it's so fucking creepy, if you ask me. But yeah, also Sylvester McCoy gives a stellar performance in this, just being this sort of really mysterious, weird, sort of creepy stowaway and that, and he has some really nice bits in the latter end. I did find part 1 and 2 fairly dull and boring, if I'm being completely honest, setting a lot of this up, or setting up a lot of the mystery and intrigue, but things get going sort of in part 3 and 4. Out of most of the Nick Briggs stories, it's probably one of his much stronger releases and or stories that he's done out of the ones that I have. Off the top of my head, to name a few, I know that he did, what was it called? Terra Firma. No, is it Terra Firma? The first 4th Doctor story in the 4th Doctor Adventure series, as well as Energy of the Daleks and Light at the End, and then I think that's it, actually, I've got from Nick Briggs, I think, off the top of my head anyway. But yeah, the Vox robots are really cool. I think they're voiced by John Dorney. They were really cool and creepy, and I love the title Robophobia. robophobia, as the Seventh Doctor would say, rolling those R's. And as I say, I think the Seventh Doctor really works in this sort of episode. It's a mixture between Robots of Death and Kablam, if anything, as well as what made me think of Earthshock as well, like that bit where all the capsules on the spaceship, all the Cybermen smash out of those. I had that same image, but with the Vox robots instead of obviously Cybermen. But yeah, they're very creepy. And that Livchenko, I think she goes on to be a companion for the Eighth Doctor in Doom Coalition. Correct me in the comment section if I'm wrong, but if so, that's cool because she's really good in this. Really cool. The actress who plays her really well, and that Medtech Chenka and yeah, she's just sort of like this sort of strong, sturdy, sort of feisty sort of character and she's piecing things bit by bit to get to the obviously end result sort of thing, and in doing so, I guess the Doctor has to take a bit of a step back and that. It's really cool how we see more of a sort of wider scope of how the robots being the way they are sometimes might be perceived by other people, and the world that escapes me right now. There's a planet that they're about to go to, and for the life of me I can't remember what the name of the planet is, but basically that planet and a few other colony planets and places nearby that planet are very, very dependent on robots. So so it's quite interesting to see how obviously the whole system could fall to pieces basically if obviously robots are perceived as a bad thing, and the backstory as to how one of the characters gets robophobia is quite interesting, quite dark and sad really. There's quite a lot of decent music of all things in this story, and that at the beginning there's some sort of nice sort of acoustic guitar music, which is kind of odd but works, I guess. Then there's some sort of piano-y music thing later on when we get like a flashback to the backstory of the person, as I say, who has robophobia. And that it's just sort of a spiritual successor and or, as I say, a sequel to Robots of Death, but in Big Finish Audio and with the Seventh Doctor. I mean, there's not much else really to say besides that, I guess, without spoiling lots of things yeah, I think maybe if this was my first listen, I'd be much more passionate and a lot more like, oh my god, this was the best episode ever. But it is a really good, solid sort of story. I was about to say Base Under Siege story. I don't know if I'd class it a Base Under Siege, but it is good, and there are some really decent, well, not funny, but quirky and just doctor-y moments from Sylvester McCoy's Doctor that you can tell are written by a big fan and a person who knows Doctor Who and the show, obviously, inside out, like Nicholas Briggs does. And yeah, I mean, the audio sound design is really good, but by the 149th release in the month of Orange, you would kind of hope that the audio design is good. I mean, it is good. It can sort of, you can picture where things are for the most part. I did, as I say, dip out of the sort of story in part 1 and or 2. There are quite a few too many characters for my liking, and it does get a little bit complicated as to when there's flashbacks and that to me, because again, I'm still finding flashbacks, I think, in Big Finish Audio stories quite challenging, because obviously there's no visual to tell me that's happening, you know, whereas with a flashback, you're so used to seeing visually that, like a transition effect. So you have this character and then they're thinking about something and it's a flashback to their, you know, themselves 10, 20 years ago, but you have that transitional effect. Whereas obviously with a non-visual medium, you don't have that. So it's a bit more trickier, and that, as I say, there are some really good twists and turns and there are some cool bits with the Doctor, although he's not in it as much as maybe I would like to have him in it as a fanboy, and that it kind of makes sense in the context of the story as to why he takes a back seat, and I guess it adds more depth and layers to the Seventh Doctor being more manipulative. Well, not even manipulative, but more mysterious anyway, because he's not manipulative as it were in this story, but he's definitely mysterious, and it kind of, interestingly enough, grates on Livchenko's personality or person and that, which I thought was quite interesting. And yeah, I mean, it's a really good story. However, I don't know, I was originally really wanting to give it a 10 out of 10, but I think I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. It just misses the mark a little bit for me by a whole point and that, but it is still a really strong, really good, really fun sort of action-adventure story, you know. If you're a big fan of Robots of Death, then I think obviously this is a must-have for you, you know, because again, it's a sequel to Robots of Death, and it's as I say, it's like Kablam meets Robots of Death, and that, you know, it's a nice balance and mixture of those two stories, really, and that. So yeah, thanks for watching. Comment, rate, and subscribe.